Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon with Jay Unboxing here, giving you a personal prediction for Joyce versus Joseph Parker. And as always, this is just my take. Your prediction can be left down in the comments section below. Would love to hear them all. It's a pretty interesting one here, two heavyweights, so you never know what can happen. Love to hear all your thoughts, your bets, all that good stuff down there in the comments. And a little bit of fight info here. We have Joyce versus Joseph Parker, a fight that seems like it should have been made about a year ago from now, considering how long it's taken, but nonetheless, it's coming up here now, taking place at the AO Arena in Manchester, England, an arena that's been named 14 times in the last 10 years, of course. This will be airing on BT Sport Box Office as well as ESPN on this side of the pond in the heavyweight division. And as mentioned, this is a very fun, interesting, too close to call heavyweight sort of scrap. To be honest, the first non-title fight that didn't include Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, or Alexander Usyk at heavyweight that I'm pretty pumped for in a rather long time. Joyce, while older, needs the meaningful scrap and is still, pretty fresh considering his age, while Parker needs the win to stay relevant. Both have clear and obvious advantages and disadvantages in this fight, which makes it pretty interesting to pick. So it's just about who can execute best. So I'll pretend I know what's going to happen here and break this one down, and let's get into it. Starting with Joyce here. For Joyce to win, I think you want to be the busier man. Now, of course, this doesn't mean getting into wild exchanges or trying to force the action in some crazy way. It simply means that you want to pursue more of an actual fight here. You're just a person that's naturally going to go off of being busier. You can punch fairly hard, but you're not the hardest puncher. You don't have any real speed at all. I mean, you're fighting in slow motion most of the time. But if you can keep the punches flowing, this at least smothers some of the work Parker's looking to do. It'll put him under duress, and it can mean that you can land something at least at some point in the fight meaningful that can get some things accomplished for you. So that's certainly what you're looking to do. Parker has a decent chin, so there's really no need to load up. But what you can do is potentially crack that egg by throwing enough in volume that it means something later on in the contest. I would also say control Parker with the jab. Now, this is a good way to offset a lot of his speed. Of course, the volume punching will do that as well, but a jab can really do this because, number one, it's a simpler way of scoring without having to exert as much energy, but it's a pretty solid way of doing so because you have a good jab to begin with. It backs him up. It allows you to let your hands go more, which is, of course, what you're looking to do, and it keeps him sort of tame. It keeps him at your range with your longer arms by about 4 inches, able to still connect when you need to throw them. It just forces him to have to try and fight an uphill battle, which is obviously what you're looking to do. And a great way to start that is by implementing a solid jab, a busy one that doubles up at times, one that'll go to the body. You are pretty good with mixing it up, and that's what I think you should do in this fight. And finally, don't square up and exchange. Quite frankly, you're too slow for this to happen, and it benefits Parker, who has significantly faster hands than you. Your chin is often up in the air as a result of you being a taller fighter, and when you're trying to be busy, exchanging, squaring up, and that chin is up in the air, that spells disaster at heavyweight against guys, especially like a Parker, who have been in bigger fights, who know what to do in those kind of pivotal moments. He's a good fighter. People like to give him a little bit of flack rather here and there, but the truth of the matter is he's capable enough that if you're going to tee it up for him that way, he can land a big enough shot that it can potentially hurt you and put you down. While you've shown a decent chin at times, there's really no need to test it at heavyweight. Testing it typically means you fail, so there's really no need to do that. So you'll square up a little bit less if you're able to just kind of keep your hands busy, push him back, get him against the ropes, and then kind of do your work as opposed to trying to force the action in the middle of the ring. Now, for Joseph Parker here, I think you want to set up the overhand right. This is a shot that can be used to get over a bit of the reach disadvantage. Again, you have about 4, maybe 5 inches where you're coming up short in terms of your reach, so you want to be able to find shots that can close the distance quickly and effectively. One of the ways in which you can do that is by throwing those jabs, using them as a blinder, doubling it up at times to set it up, as well as even feints for that matter, and then really trying to power home that overhand right. Doesn't need to be done all the time. You don't need to telegraph it, but if you can naturally let it go, it can be a shot that can catch him off guard. Remember, at times, Joyce can leave his chin up in the air, so if you're able to land that right hand square and you step in with it pretty quickly, having the faster hands and faster feet in the process, I think you really have a good shot of scoring with it and potentially causing some damage. I would also say speed, not power, will be key here. Joyce has been hurt, but usually his chin holds up, so there's really no reason to load up with your shots. That's not going to be how you necessarily get to him. Speed will be the key, because you can land more and more consistently if you're able to get your hands going consistently, and more often, of course. let your speed come into play and catch him off guard with it. I think if this is ultimately a battle between one and two things, it's the volume of Joyce and the speed of Parker. Both will need to look to implement those keys in order to win. And I think this advantage best obviously benefits Parker. So if he can just focus on getting there first more than getting there with the hardest shot, the power will eventually come and will pay off later in the contest. And finally, I would say land first, land last. Obviously, you won't do this every single time, but that should be the mentality. Just mentally, that's how you should be going into this fight. You're faster, you're younger by a few years, and you have the faster feet. So you should be able to get in there, land the shots you're looking to land. Maybe you'll have those exchanges, could potentially benefit you, but you want to be pushing him back with the shot as well, using different jabs, using that overhand right, as I mentioned. Send him back with the shot as well. It's one of those things that, whatever the shot's prevented, it's one of those things where ultimately I think if you can use that speed to create some of your own volume, it takes away some of the advantages that Joyce might potentially benefit from. So it's just something you're going to want to look to do from a mentality standpoint or a philosophical standpoint in this fight. Land first, land last, and you can have some success in this fight. Now, this is the tricky one, but I'm going with the slight underdog, more on that later, in Joseph Parker. I think the Kiwi has a strong shot of landing hurtful shots early and building a solid lead. The overhand right and faster hands on the inside will be key, in my personal opinion. The location could be a concern as Parker has never been gifted really favorable cards in England, so scoring might be close. I also think the latter rounds will be tighter anyway. They'll probably tighten up. However, the early work and damage done by Parker with that overhand right, his faster footwork, his faster hand speed as he continues to kind of build into this fight will earn him enough of those rounds to get him a close decision. Joseph Parker via split or majority decision. Now, the betting odds for this, as I mentioned, have Joyce as a solid favorite, or a slight favorite, I should say, at a minus 165, with Parker coming in at a plus 130. Again, it's not a gigantic underdog pick by any means. It's effectively a pick 'em fight to some degree. That being said, I like the value in pretty much either pick. It just depends on how confident you are with Parker. I'm fairly confident I'd probably make a small to medium sized bet on this one, maybe leaning towards medium. I just happen to think he has enough in this fight. Could be proved dead wrong. It's heavyweight, of course, that can always happen, but at plus 130, it's a decent return. So, like I said, a small to medium sized bet really wouldn't be too bad here for me. In terms of the over under, this fight is expected to go the distance. You have a 10.5 set for the round with minus 225 for the over and plus 155 for the under. Not a great deal of value there. It's probably a fairly good set for an over under. So I really couldn't, I couldn't set it much better. And as a result, you're going to see odds that reflect that. So that's just kind of more about your own personal hunch there, more than anything I could really guide you in that direction, which I wouldn't do anyway, of course. But that's kind of a pretty decent set. So in any event, those are your odds. And my prediction record as of Saturday, September 17th is 28 8 and 1 with 10 exact. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts, predictions, bets, so on and so forth down in the comments. And do you think this fight actually goes the distance? That is the projection for this fight. We'd love to hear if you think this heavyweight fight will reach the cards. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at jcalderon_JOB. And you can email me at junboxing@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you there. Also, be sure to check out junboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. And as always, until next time.